Okay, H grade Spruce. My name is Will Hastings. I am the TEI campus expert. And for anyone who wants just a brief refresher on the SLO or for our new teachers, I'm really just shooting this video to help you out, to walk you through the steps from beginning to end. If you feel like you understand sections, feel free to click ahead in the video as necessary, but here we go. So where can I find my SLO? Well, let's just go to Google and let's type in Cornerstone, and you can type in DISD or Dallas ISD. It doesn't really matter. And so let's just click this one, Cornerstone Dallas ISD. Lots of different schools have links, so really dallasisd.csod.com. And you'll scroll down Cornerstone to the bottom left where it says My Performance Review Task, and we're going to go to SLO Goal Setting and PDP. Now from here, I think a lot of teachers miss this, so just kind of as you scroll down, right beneath Overview, you have really all of the things that you're going to need. So first, let's click on the SLO Rubric, and we are looking for a Proficient 2. Let's see if I can kind of zoom that in. So we're looking for Proficient 2, and you can use this rubric to guide yourself. Now it says student group is appropriately identified 20 to 40%. I know for a fact if you're a category A, or a year-long teacher, you cannot have less than 30% of your students complete this in the spring. I believe that for a one semester it's 40%, but you should double check me on that because I don't teach a semester-long course. All right, and we're actually going to go through my rough draft of my SLO, and we'll kind of go through each one of these ideas one at a time. Okay, so starting with student group is appropriately identified. Let's go take a look over here. All right, so what I have right here is the 2022-2023 SLO will cover 73 of my 122 students, which is 59.8%. So this is something I recommend. Don't get 30% of your roster because by the time spring comes around, you're gonna have far less than 30%. Really give yourself a nice cushion from my second, third, fourth, and sixth period geometry and Algebra 2 honors courses. Now I actually need to specify a little bit further. I need to pick a specific student population, and so it could be my ESL students, or it could be like I'm going to pick all Hispanic males or all Hispanic females. So you're going to want to focus on one demographic of student, and the reason is going to be something that you choose that you think will be most beneficial. All right, for geometry, okay, and so let's kind of go to the next point here. The selected content standards are broad and capture deep ideas, and the assessment items are aligned with the learning content and an appropriate level of cognitive demand. Okay, and let's jump down here, one more thing, and it says alignment statements demonstrates that the SLO is tied to the success of the team, department, or school. Okay, so we're kind of looking at this, and the content standards, are they broad and do they capture deep ideas? All right. Are they aligned to the learning content and cognitively demanding appropriately? And do they align with your department, your team, or your school goals? And so maybe that's a conversation that you want to have with your team or your instructional coach or your principal, but just kind of taking a look at mine. So I went something along the lines of this. For geometry, I've chosen to assess trigonometry, which broadly covers finding the measure of the sides and angles of a right triangle with applications to altitudes, special right triangles, and the Pythagorean theorem. Finding the area of regular polygons. I've chosen this standard because the last time it was tested in 2022, H grade Spruce was 10% below the district in the applications of the trigonometry. So it wasn't necessarily the trigonometry itself, but it was with the applications of altitudes, the special right triangles, and the Pythagorean theorem. Okay? And here's my goal. So achieving a 20% department-wide improvement would push us towards our department goal of 60% passing for pre-AP geometry and put us 10% above the district. So here you can kind of see where we recognize that there's a problem, and now here we have a goal as a department, and we're pushing to beat the district. So we're setting some pretty significant expectations. And then I have similar reasoning for my Algebra 2 class. I would have stuck with just geometry, but for me, my geometry students only represented 35% of my roster, And so that's why I need to include my Algebra 2 students. For you, you should probably try and stick to one content if you absolutely can. All right, let's see here. Going back to the rubric. Artifacts and student score sheet. We'll talk about that in a second. And established growth targets are rigorous, projecting 70% or more of the students meet the target. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, because this is really huge for you. I have my SLO start date is September 19th, 2022 through May 2023, and will include 10 questions ranging in difficulty from ACP level to SAT level standards. And student achievement, this is the part I really want you to focus on. Student achievement will be tiered. Students scoring from 0 to 30% initially will demonstrate a 30% or greater growth. So for example, let's say a student scores a 30, they're going to need to get a 60 in the spring in order to meet this target. Students scoring 40 to 60% will demonstrate a 20% growth, and students scoring 70% to 80% will demonstrate a 10% growth. All right, so you don't want to set a flat growth rate, because like let's say you say every student will achieve a 20% growth rate, and then you have a student who scores a 90 on your SLO. That student would automatically count against you. So you want to be smart in the way that you tier this. And then just note, I even give this caveat: students scoring a 90% to 100% will be excluded. The goal here is for you to give your students something that they don't know. Any student that scores a 90 or a 100% on something they don't know, that's not good data. So I think it's probably important for you to include some sort of line excluding kind of outliers in the data. And my goal is for greater than 90% of my students to achieve their growth target. Okay, so what does that really look like in practice? So just kind of give you a brief little look at my SLO. So let's see here. Here you can see this is my SLO for Algebra 2. And as I told y'all in the meeting in the spring, I give them 6 answer choices. That way students can't artificially guess their way to a higher score. This should really test them on what they know. And we kind of start with nice, easy rewriting of logarithms, and then we ramp up pretty significantly to finding the inverse of logarithms. And then moving on over here, we begin solving when we have exponents that we're going to have to manipulate the base in this case, and similarly right there. So kind of covering 3 different facets of exponents and logarithms. You can see it's a relatively broad goal speaking. And so what happens when you give your student this, what happens when you give your students this pretest and you have these tiered goals? Well, let's go back to Cornerstone. All right. And so the next thing I want you to look at is this student score sheet. So let's go ahead and download that. All right. And so this is where you download it. And by the way, you want to save this and save it and save it 3 times to make sure that you don't lose it, because I've seen teachers get this, fill it out, submit it, and then forget where it's at. They can't find it on their own computer. So that's something you want to be very careful of. So let's go ahead and say that we have Johnny here. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to enable editing. Okay, so let's say that we have Johnny. And Johnny's baseline assessment date, let's say it was today. So we're talking 09, 19, 20, 22. And let's say that Johnny scored a 30, kind of like we discussed earlier. And you want to do baseline assessment max points. That's going to be a 100 because I'm scoring it out of 100 points. And his growth target, so remember, according to the goals that I set, any student scoring from 0 to a 30 has to grow by 30 points. So I'll put a 30 right there. And this is all that you are going to fill out at this time. Okay, so you're going to go ahead, you're going to fill this out, every single student. You're going to put in their date. You know, if you put them on the same date, you can copy and paste. Baseline assessment score, copy and paste, 100s. Oh, I'm sorry, their baseline assessment score, that's the score that they make. And we can just do 100 points all the way down. And here you're going to have to enter in their growth targets. Okay? So what's going to happen is in the spring, especially for you new teachers, in the spring, you're going to go back to this same sheet and you're going to punch in the date. So let's say it's May 5th. All right. oh, I'm sorry. Let's say it's May 5th, okay, and 2022. And let's say that at this time their outcome score is a 60, they hit their 30%, they hit their growth. Outcome assessment max points, so this is out of 100. And then you're actually going to see if these students are eligible in the spring. And so let's say right here, let's say the student is eligible, and let's click down. And for some reason this is not updating. I wonder if it's just because it's the spring SLO score sheet. But what's going to happen, oh, I'm sorry, here we go. Proximity to target, they were just right on track. And eligible students meeting target. So, you know, if I submit this student, hey, I'm at 100% and I'm going to get my full SLO points. Okay, so just kind of a recap. You have your SLO rubric right here, and this is going to tell you all of your criteria. Sorry, y'all. All right, you have this SLO quick reference card. I think this is pretty helpful. Let's pull that up real quick. This will tell you, you know, where to go in Cornerstone, although you're already here if you're opening it up, so that's kind of silly. And anyways, on this very second page, after you click Get Started, you'll click Add Goal or Student Learning Objective. That's where I would upload my, you know, SLO, my actual final draft right there. Okay. From there, let's kind of take a look at that next page. So you click Get Started, and I would click Add Goal or Student Learning Objective. I would upload that paragraph that I just showed y'all. And then from here, I'd click Save and Continue. And then from right here, which students will be covered by the goal, you can actually go back to your SLO. And for instance, I could say, okay, you know what, I'm going to cover 73 students of my 122 students, the percentage from these courses. Remember, I need to get a little bit more of a specific demographic, and you can kind of copy that in. What time period will your SLO span? All right, and my SLO spans from September 19th through May 28th, 2023. Okay, and so basically, I think this is actually, in my opinion, this is kind of backwards from what it should be. I kind of wish they gave you these questions first, and it allowed you to formulate your SLO, and then you kind of combine them, but it's reverse in Cornerstone. You give them your full SLO, and then you want to go through and answer these questions specifically from your SLO. All right, I'm always a little terrified that I'm going to actually submit this, but let's just kind of continue on. And then, oh, and you know what? It's actually not going to let me continue on with these incomplete things down here. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. And now this 2022-2023 professional development plan, this is something that you'll actually do with your appraiser. So you're going to set 2 target goals to improve upon. So let's say I set domain 2, and you can go to TEI resources and download the TEI rubric. And so here is domain 2.2, and I might tell my appraiser, you know what, I really want to work for checks for academic understanding, and this is a district aligned initiative. So you could say, I'm going to embed the stop and jots, I'm going to embed the turn and talks, all the things that Hogan presented. I think this would be a really strong domain for you to try to improve in. And yeah, guys, I hope that I've been fairly comprehensive in the way that I have set this up. And from here, you would just go ahead and move on. I'm always a little scared I'm accidentally going to submit this. But yeah, you would come here, write down your first and last name, click sign, and submit. All right. So if you have any further questions, I would truly appreciate it if you would email me at whastings@dallasisd.org. And like I said, I hope this answered most, if not all, of your questions. One final thing, remember, you want to create your SLO in such a way that your students are growing at a target that is real and genuine, where there is a need for growth. But also, in order to get the full 5 points for your SLO, you have to have 90% or more of your students meet that growth target. So just be kind of wary as you're gauging the difficulty of that assessment. All right, any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and y'all have a great day.